population growth. You know, if we want our kids to have we want to have grandchildren. That's just what's going to be. And as I already stated, I'm on board with grandchildren. Nobody call my son and tell him. But I think that what we are responsible for doing is thinking about how we can make our investments as a society in a way that will allow us to again live comfortably and live affordably. And I think this is where the key decisions come in, is that we can't stop growth, but we can really shape the way growth impacts us by the way we agree to invest, I think, in infrastructure. And
just to clarify, I think that maybe I didn't phrase that the way I meant to. I wasn't suggesting that keeping people out was the answer. Mm-hmm. It was the opposite. Mm-hmm. I think it's unrealistic to try.
Right.
And so, therefore,
right.
I think we have to anticipate
right.
this growth.
Right.
Because as long as California grows, Marin should grow.
Right.
I mean, it just is fair.
Right.
To to the people
right.
that it's spread out.
Right. Well, now let's get back to the metaphysical here, because we're going to have to make a leap of faith, I think, a little bit, because I think we're going to have to make a leap of faith that if we make certain kinds of infrastructure investments, that they will actually improve the quality of our lives. And that if we give up something, that we're going to get something different in exchange for it. And, you know, we see this, and I think people with good reason have distrust of a lot of planning processes, because people develop buildings, for example, that, we say, well, they're high density, but they look terrible, and they don't function very well, and they're junky, and they're falling apart, right? But then there are other places that where you really take control. You say, okay, we're going to grow, but we're going to really control what we want. And I think this is what's so, am I going the right direction? I think so, yeah. Sorry, I hope you don't get nauseous. Yeah. This place, Pleasant Hill, or Contra Costa Center, this is a place where people fought growth. And they fought things like what was originally proposed here was a movie theater. So just beyond here are single-family homes. And what was originally proposed, this is a former BART parking lot. And what was originally proposed here was a movie theater and, like a shopping mall. And people said, no, we don't want a shopping mall. And, frankly, I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to live next door to a shopping mall either. And they worked really hard with BART and with the developer, and they designed the street. You see there's a beautiful park in the front here. Can you guys see this? There's a fountain. And this photograph, by the way, is taken from the BART station platform, right? And now there is a little shopping district that goes in through here. They have this beautiful bridge. This is this bridge is basically back here. You can't see it because of where these buildings are. I think it's like back here. It goes over to this building across Street Boulevard. And when I was there to look at this area, people were just going on bikes. There's a bike trail here, and people were walking through this, and the kids can play in the fountain here. It's quite lovely. And there's a beautiful kind of parkway that separates this higher density housing from the single family stuff. And the people who live on the other side are very happy with this now. They fought hard for quality. And they got a good, they made the leap of faith that they would get the quality. And I'm telling you, they didn't even change the color on the buildings from what the rendering looked like, because the community agreed. And once the community agreed, they got something that's quite lovely. And I think that that's part of the dilemma that we face, and why people are very distrustful of planners, is because planners have delivered a lot of mediocre stuff. Guilty as charged. But I think, again, if we engage in a positive dialogue around how we want to shape things and make investments in and this is a place that's high-density housing. It has a park, and it's easily accessible to schools, by the way, to your question earlier. And I think that this is a good example of when the community really rolls up their sleeves, they work hard, they engage in a dialogue. There was a lot of back and forth with the planners and the architects and the designers. Everybody got a plan they were happy with, they built it, and it's working. So I think we need more of that process as much as we need anything else, that kind of give and take where people really get engaged, they roll up their sleeves. but they're not trying to stop something, they're trying to create something that's positive. Yes, sir.
You talked a little bit about shuttles, and with regard to Mill Valley, it's a little too big to walk from, say, Camino Alto to downtown and Ham Valley, but nobody gets on the bus to go from Camino Alto to downtown, that I know of. With regard to a scale of a shuttle service, could Mill Valley work in a model?
I don't know enough about it. I do know that other communities have tried, are working on designing transit infrastructure that's scaled appropriately to their community. And so it's something that's certainly worth exploring and seeing if it is workable and what would that mean and how would TAM operated and how would all that go. But it's certainly worth, I mean, listen, I was in Rome 2 years ago. How many of you have been to Rome? Okay, a lot of you. So you know how those little medieval streets, they have buses, right? That fit in those medieval, they scaled their infrastructure to fit their community.
So you know some instances where it works quite well. And you talked about even the private sector doing it around some of their campuses they have. So it does, it's not...
It's not crazy.
Something that doesn't work.
No.
Doesn't function.
No. But again, I think that you have to really look at it carefully and think closely about who your market is and design it appropriately. Boulder, Colorado's done a really good job with this. They have a bus system that they call the hop, the skip, and the jump. And the hop is the short. And Boulder's a college town, so they hire these dudes, and I think it's probably even the girls are dudes, if you know what I mean, who drive these buses, and they paint the buses, and the dudes can pick whatever music they want to play, and people ride because they know their dude, they like their tunes, and, it's a whole cultural thing. So I don't know what the Mill Valley equivalent of that would be. It's a different kind of dude. Yes, sir, and then I'll get to you.
I recently was in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, yeah.
A beautiful example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, they have transit and they have ferries and high-rise buildings, and then you go out a little bit and there's suburbs. It's really,
and the other thing about Sydney is there would be this huge modern building, and then there's this funky Victorian colonial thing over there.
Yeah, no, it's really great.
Sydney also is interesting because the streets there it's not on a grid. And a lot of the streets follow the old water paths that people, it's a really interesting city. Yeah. Rats.
I'm just wondering, using Pleasant Hill BART as an example, so there's a development in an established area, generally built out, and ultimately it's not a general planning process, it was a specific plan to get something approved. Would you argue that in built-out areas that you don't go through a general planning process, that would be more focused on a specific plan?
Well, no, I think you need both. Because I think that the general plan, I'm a big believer in context, and I believe in starting big and going small instead of starting small and going big, or doing some of both. And I think that as a community, you should go big. You should have a big vision for yourself. You should know how you want to grow, what your goals are, that everybody kind of buys into, and then that sets the stage for specific plans. I think general plans are actually very important even in built-out communities because, again, communities are organic, they change, and even in single-family neighborhoods, stuff happens. I mean, Mike was saying at dinner, that every week at the Planning Commission, they're hearing things about houses in single-family neighborhoods.
We're trying to stop change.
That's right. Well, I mean, we do live in a country where people have private property rights, and Palo Alto went through this. They went through this in Portland. What to do about the mega houses and all that kind of stuff. Carmel. There are a lot of communities that have wrestled with how to kind of keep quality, but let people upgrade and do something with their property, so you can again. So I think general plans are still a good idea. Transportation is a big part of a general plan, and to the extent that you might want to re-envision, mobility patterns in your community, you can't really do that without looking at the whole community. Sewer, water, those kinds of things really work better looking at the whole picture. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I've noticed like in